Hunting and no-till syrup is currently under supervision by the FDA behind this.
Hello! Welcome to the stream. I thought I'd start off with a little something ridiculous from my childhood. This is a special PAX edition of the stream. I'm here in Seattle, getting ready for PAX and other related events. And so I'm doing my stream at a little bit different time. And gonna try to make it kind of a quick update. Most of what I've been doing lately is either traveling or trying to contact different publishers and things. So I haven't had a ton of time for development, but I have a little list of stuff that I thought I'd share with you today. Just quick, kind of telling you about the publishers stuff, what's going on with that. Show you like a a crazy bug that I had, and what the fix was, and then look a little bit at solving some depth of field issues. And welcome to the stream if you just joined. And then maybe if there's time, look at a little bit of wind stuff. I've got some basic stuff going for that, and it needs some tweaking, I think. And yeah, so in terms of publisher stuff, I've got a meeting set up with one publisher. I had some email contact with another, and let me adjust the camera just a little bit here. Got a meet, and they wanted a build, so I wasn't really quite ready to have a playable build yet. I was working on a lot of the simulation stuff, a little bit of the rendering stuff, but I will have to have a build soon here, so I need to put in a little bit of actual UI/tutorial stuff, and I really want to get this wind stuff working, and maybe a little bit of tweaking on how the rain works, and then I have to kind of slow the game down a lot, because right now I have it sped up super fast for testing purposes. But other than that, I'm just gonna keep pushing to meet folks and see what I can make happen here. So first, I wanted to show you this crazy bug. I've got a little video of it that I can show you. So I've been kind of cataloging the development of the game, which is hopefully some of this can help get show people a little insight into the process, and then also for me, it's sort of like a bit of a time capsule, so I can look at the development as it goes. So let me see if I can. So basically, I had an issue like this, where I would go like that, and the land I would try to kind of raise up the land, and it would get all crazy spiky. And I had similar stuff with the water simulation, and this would only happen when I had a really high resolution mesh. I have a way of generating the mesh. It's called a geodesic dome, and you can sort of keep subdividing to add more and more levels of detail. And what happens is, let me back that up a bit while I'm talking about it. Once I got beyond a certain level, from 40,000 points to 160,000 points, because it's a 4x every time you subdivide, then I would get this happen. If I had less, I was fine. And I was like, what the heck is going on? I was wondering if there's something weird with my math, or if Unity just didn't support more. And so I started doing some debugging, and where is it? Where did that pop up? Okay, so basically every vertex has a number called an ID associated with it, and they just kind of go sequentially. And so I would output that to see what's going on, because I look at first I was looking at what are the neighbors of the vert, and of the vertex. Each point's called a vertex, and that was being weird. So then I looked at just the kind of that vertex itself, its ID, and where it's red, it has kind of some number that's not 0, and all the dark spots where it's kind of shadowy is actually outputting 0, which is black. And then on top of that, Unity does some additional stuff, so it's not a pure black. So I was I noticed this crazy pattern where it kind of alternates between ones that are good and ones that are black. And now that I look at it, I realize it is that sort of, it's a 1-to-4 ratio. So like you have these little triangles right here. That's 3 that are bad, to like 1 that's red that's good. And so thinking about that, I just thought, okay, something's going on with the list of vertices and the list of neighbors. And I found out, so I had this data that was kind of old, where I had generated a planet, and it had this sort of, for every point it had like the 6 neighbors of it, and I wasn't updating that. So even though I generated a newer mesh with more detail, it was still using the old data, and so it ended up being something really stupid and simple. But it was this bug that I like had been living with for like a week or two, and I couldn't figure it out. And sometimes it's those stupid things that just get in your way in game development, and this solution is really simple and basic, but sometimes it takes you a while to realize what it is. And so that was that, and I'm glad to put it behind me. And then another thing that I wanted to look at here is the depth of field, which is like a post-processing effect to simulate what would happen with an actual camera, where there's some stuff that's in focus and it's nice and crisp and clean, and some stuff that's blurry. And I added this before, and I tweaked some values, but it seems I keep coming back to it, and it seems like every time I tweak the values, I need to retweak them to something else. So I'm not sure what's going on with that exactly, if it has something to do with the screen resolution or going back and forth between different PCs, because I have 2 PCs that I develop on. But you can see when I enable it, that starry background gets super blurry, a little too blurry. I didn't intend for that to be quite so blurry. And one thing I do like is the effect it has on the actual atmosphere. Well, I kind of like the effect it has on the atmosphere, because it kind of softens some of the hard edges. You can see a little bit of like a hard edge here and here. This is a little too much, but maybe there'd be a happy medium that'll smooth it out. The other issue with the depth of field, besides just being too crazy, is that it affects not just the stars in the background, but also the atmosphere, because basically the post-process doesn't really know that these transparent clouds are here, so it kind of thinks they're really far away, like the background. But maybe if we tone down the depth of field, that won't be such a problem. So if we look at it again, right, like the atmosphere gets really blurry, and so that's not great. I did like when you'd have stuff at the edge of your planet, it could blur that out a little bit. So what we're going to try here is just kind of tweaking the values. And yeah, it is an early stream this morning. You like this schedule? Okay, cool. Well, now that I'm on the West Coast, this seemed to be the best time to stream. When I go back to another time zone, maybe I can keep that schedule. We'll see. It'll be that could work. We'll see what people like. If people like this earlier schedule better than the afternoon schedule. I used to do the afternoon also because I wanted to have stuff to show, and so like I could do some development in the morning and then show it off. But as long as I get some stuff the evening before, or the afternoon before, I can show that off the next day. So here you can see, the clouds, as soon as it goes beyond the edge of the planet there, it just gets super blurry. So we're gonna tweak this post-process. In the end, maybe I would end up just not doing it at all if it becomes too problematic, but I have this script that I called my dynamic depth of field, and basically it's just a bunch of points where it does kind of like interpolation between these sets of points to have what's called like a piecewise linear curve, where I say like, oh, if I'm at this distance from the planet, if the camera and the planet are that far away, then this is kind of the value that drives the depth of field effect. And so what I'm actually going to do for the moment is turn that off, so I can just manually tweak the depth of field here, right? This aperture value is what it's driving, and the focus distance is 1.36 right now. That's probably where the camera's actual position is, if we look at it. Well, and then also the radius of the planet is about 1. So, and then if I, just to kind of check myself here, if I, where did I put it on the camera? That dynamic depth of field thing. If I turn that on, and then I zoom out, I should see the focus distance change. Yeah, it did. Okay. So if we go, kind of, this is probably, well, we might want to get like really close to the planet, which is actually, in that case, it's kind of okay to have that blurry edge a little bit. It's still maybe a little too blurry. So right now the focus distance is 0.6 basically, and so what I'm going to do is just save that off somewhere for a second, and then I'm going to play with it. So first I have to turn off this guy because it's overriding it, and then go back to my post-process volume, and now I can just change this and see, you can see I got sharper when I moved it that way to, that's like really sharp. And I don't know. Justin, I think you might have your own little lurker or stalker. I'm actually kind of a little bit curious if you guys think, like, the actual like starry background, do you like it at full sharpness or with a little bit of, maybe just like right there, like a little bit of softness? It might be hard to tell in the video stream, but it's like right here it's like super crisp, and then right there it's just a little bit soft. So if we come to this example again, so right now stuff's pretty sharp. If I just add a little bit, I kind of like just a little bit. And if I draw some mountains, that also helps me see what the effect is on those mountains of the depth of field effect as they kind of go in the distance. You can see that gets blurrier. And the hardest thing is right here is this like harsh transition I really don't like. I wish there were a way to sort of blur the blur, if you get me. So maybe just a little bit, like, so it goes up to 32, so maybe like 30. So at this distance we'll go with 30.7. And it's just kind of a basic manual process, and then zoom out a little bit more here, and that's still kind of good, I think. I kind of like that 30.7 at a, oh, but we're still got the same focus distance, so I need to go back to enable my thing so I can update that, so I have to kind of toggle back and forth. So now we're at this distance, so mark that down. And then, okay, that guy's turned off. And so we want maybe just a little bit. It actually kind of is nice for the edge of the cloud layer, because before it was like this harsh transition where you can see it's kind of a flat layer, and that softens it up a lot, right? If I turn off the depth of field, you can kind of see that it's a sphere, but if I turn on the depth of field, it just hides that just a little bit. So I kind of like that. A little bit of softness kind of makes the planet pop a little more. That's what I thought too. So it sounds like you like it, so that's good. So at this distance, I think I'm liking this value. And what were the distances I had before? I guess it doesn't matter. I can just do all new values. So go back to my camera. And then I'm going to pick maybe like this distance as the next sort of point on my curve. Let me go back to the post-process volume. So right now it's at 1.85 unity world units away. And we'll tweak it again. And it kind of like helps to rotate the planet around to get a good sense of it. And actually the white highlight also kind of helps hide that transition, you know, down here less so because it's kind of in the shadow of the planet. Yeah, I think that's probably, if we just kind of toggle it, that's without it, and that's with. And I don't want to, like, you could go crazy and blur it a ton. But then I think it's just, like, a little bit harsh on the eyes. Like, if you accidentally look there, you're like, ah, it's blurry, but I'm focusing on it. So, let's pick something that's kind of medium. And it's a little bit arbitrary, you know, if I do it from one moment to the next, maybe one moment I like one value a little better, next moment something else. But let's go with that 9.3, just a moderate amount. And then I want to pick a value maybe about this distance. And so we gotta go, and so I gotta, where's my little script, just to update that distance value, just toggle that on and off real quickly, and then go back to the post-process volume. So now we're at about 3, and we'll play with it again. And it's funny when it's blurry and it comes in sharp, all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's so crisp, but then once it's crisp, it's nice to see that softness again. So I kind of like that, about 6. Move the planet around a little bit. Put some mountains on it. Rising out of the sea. Rising like a sea phoenix. So just so you can see if what it does to the planet. And I should also mention one thing that was cool with the atmosphere rendering that I was something I found really important was to see how the atmosphere affected parts of your like little mountains and things as they go in the background, how they kind of fade into the atmosphere nicely. And so I really like that. It gives you a sense of depth to the planet and avoids any harsh transitions between like where the mountain is and where the space is behind it. Just to me it gives it a nice quality feel. So do I have that value yet? No. So 6, and then I think one last one for like really far away. So now we're at almost 8 units away. Once again, we're gonna play with that aperture, and at this point, slight changes make a big difference. And at this point, maybe it makes sense. Actually, I don't know. Does it make sense to actually make it a little crisper because your planet's so small that maybe you do want to look at space a little bit? I don't know. Or like so, there's like a lot of blur, just like a little bit of blur, or almost no blur. And it's at this point though, it is hard to see that there is sort of that hard boundary, so you can go a little higher if you want. So But in the end, I think I want it just a little bit crisper, just a kind of gut feeling. Maybe like right, it's too, right there. So just a little bit, right? 2.4. So now I have these values. I'm gonna go actually plug them in to my little controller here. I know more about this kind of stuff. I mean, I guess if you mean game development, then I hope so. But I imagine you know quite a bit about depth of field. Ba-da-bum, another world. But hopefully I get this stuff plugged in and I'll be like, wow, crazy cool, depth of field, nice, good job, man, kind of stuff. And I had to learn a lot in the process of developing this game, mostly just about how a lot of like weather and like the energy balance of the planet and stuff like that. So maybe you'll see me on the 6 o'clock snooze giving the next weather forecast. Gotta add one more point. Dr. Dan's meteorology hour. Ding! Okay, so now, as we zoom around the planets, there's actually, you can see there's a bit of blur on the sky, but it kind of looks nice. It makes it a little, the softness is kind of nice. I don't know. You know, clouds aren't normally that crisp of a thing, but we can look at it, you know, with and without. So that's without, and that's with the blur. My clouds went away, although maybe I would tone that down just a little bit. So let me pause the simulation here. Boop. And then look at my camera and my post. So right now I'm at 1.32, so it's gonna be, look at, not that, look at, so that was in between these guys here. That's where I am now. So maybe I just need to add another point in there. Or maybe just tone it down a bit. Because right now it's at 15, right, kind of in between there. So if I zoom in a little bit more, that's kind of, yeah, this distance I think it looks pretty good. It's just in this kind of, oh wait, it's turned off, that's why. Okay, so at this distance, it is maybe a little too blurry. So if I Dr. Dan with meteorology and video game development. It'll be raining heavy loops shells, and watch out for Sephiroth's meteor. Oh gosh. Okay, so if we go back to where's post-process volume, get a little sharper. What was it at before? It was at 18. What does 20 look like? Let's go with 20. Kind of like that. So let's pop that value in as a replacement. And sometimes, you just gotta tweak it. You don't want to torque it, but you want to tweak it back and forth. So it's kind of zoomed in there. It looks like I went inside the sphere of the atmosphere, which thinking about that now, I probably want to change a little bit about how I render it, so I can render sort of just the back half of it instead of the front half like I'm doing now. Yeah, because although weirdly enough, the clouds well, that's right, because the atmosphere is a lot bigger. Right? If you look at the shells here, like this is the planet, this one is the clouds, and then this is the outer atmosphere. So I kind of went inside it. And so now, right here it gets maybe a little too blurry, but not crazy. But what are we at here? So we're at 1.8, it's at that 9. I think I just want to tone that down just a little bit. That looks good, 10.7, so let me pop that in there. Like I said, sometimes I look at it 1 second, I think one thing looks good, and I think you just gotta kind of keep coming back to it until eventually you settle on something that you like. You know, it's amazing how much time, thinking about this makes me also think about, what some other people do, like make movies and like what that must be like. And, how you spend so much time hyper focusing on just like 1 second, and you could spend an hour just perfecting that 1 second of a film, So I think that's looking pretty good. So yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. So I feel happy with the depth of field stuff. So let me get rid of that. I don't need it anymore. Get out of here. And then so I kind of want to just look briefly at the wind stuff, kind of show you what my next major thing is. I'm not going to go too deep into it right now, but I want to show you some like kind of what I'm doing for the wind and where it's going to go. So I'm going to just briefly pull up the code here, and right now I was starting my plant off at 5,000 degrees on the Kelvin scale, and now I'm going to go to 300, which is like a normal Earth atmosphere temperature. And so that's why we have liquid water and clouds and happiness and sunshine and all that good stuff. And while I'm at it, let me just make the planet rotate around a little bit so we can see that atmosphere kind of changing. And I like right about here when you get that like sun glow, and it's summer in the northern hemisphere, so you always, like in the top, you always get a little bit of that sun. The kind of that 24 hours of sunlight in Alaska kind of situation. If I were to change the tilt of my axis, we can do that for a second. Or I guess it's just the sun angle that I've changed, not really the axis tilt, which isn't really the right way to do it. But like, if I were to change this, where's my light, to be like more straight, then you're not going to get it circling around the top. You'll get it just kind of, here's the sun highlight here, and it's gonna, once I move it, because I like to move it, it'll just kind of go down the side and then come back out the other side as the planet spins. But I want to go back to where's my light? Put it back where it was, so it's summertime in the north again, because otherwise it'll be a cold place. By the way, you're here in Twitch, and I tried to set up a bot to kind of say the Discord channel, but it doesn't seem to be working, so I'm gonna quickly just paste in a link to the Discord in case anybody wants to like pop in there, say hello, talk about the game, or whatever's on your mind. So I'm gonna just get a little link to that to throw in the chat. Bear with me for just a quick second. So yeah, if you want to join the Discord, that's that. But let me just quickly show you a little bit of the wind stuff. So to make it, so I have different sort of visualizations that I put on the planet that we saw on a previous stream. Like I can look at the elevation of different things, for example, and it kind of gets that, like, you can see like lines of equal elevation, and I have like the surface temperature, etc., etc. And then what I wanted to look at is actually the air pressure. So you can see we have a region of like high pressure here, but then it's like low pressure up here. And I also have a little doohickey where I can look at individual values, and you see in the upper left corner there like the surface temperature at different points. But I'm not really interested in temperature right now. Why the hell do I care about that? What I'm interested in is the wind velocity. So I have this little arrow, and generally speaking it should point away from the high pressure red areas toward white or blue. White's kind of like medium pressure, and blue is low relative pressure. And this is actually how the winds will be generated. And you can see here it is generally doing that, although if I make changes it's kind of like right now slow to respond. So like if I can, I don't know, mess with some stuff here, try to see if I can get some real big changes in the pressure gradients. I made a big hole. Maybe not the best stuff. It's kind of a little bit tricky to, actually the best way to change the pressure is to throw some heat in here. So I'm just gonna, if it was in normal mode you would see like a really cool fire stuff. So what just happened? Everything just got really, oh, looks like I have a bug and everything went crazy. So let me restart that. Definitely gonna have to fix that. Okay, so let me do that again. So I'm gonna just make it really hot, maybe not so much heat that when it made everything go crazy. So I'm basically boiling the sea right there. You can see there's actually like a depression where all the water went away, and then after it cools the water can come back, and so it boiled that water, and that's what created these circular rings right here. And get some rings around these mountains too, which is kind of cool. And so if we look at the pressure now, and the whole point of this is to eventually make it so I can create all kinds of weather patterns, have hurricanes form, all kinds of stuff, and just have a really dynamic planet and really living planet. So I was going to look at the wind. So here you can see the wind is going this way, and it's going, like I said, it's kind of slow to adapt, so it should really be going toward these blue circles, but I think because at one point it was different. You can see in the top left, like the values are very slowly changing, and so eventually that should shift and go back the other way. It's just going to take a little while. And so I need to do some stuff to tweak that so that the wind can change a little bit more quickly and have sort of like drag as it passes over either the water of the land, or the land I should say. And that's kind of what I'm going to be working on. I got all this crazy code here. This green stuff's disabled, but all this stuff right here is kind of what's handling a lot of the wind and air pressure stuff to move matter around. And it has a little work to be a little more physically accurate, but it has the right general idea. And so now you can see the arrow is not pointing straight left anymore. It's kind of at an angle, and eventually, well, if it was those low pressure areas are kind of disappearing as the high pressure kind of fills them in, but like it will shift, and so that's kind of where I'm at right now. So with that, this is going to be a pretty short stream. I've got a lot of stuff to do, like go get some business cards printed and meet some people and kind of work out the mathematical details of this, which isn't so interesting to watch on stream. So I'll be back tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. Pacific or 12:30 Eastern time. And thanks for coming in. If you liked it, if that was interesting, you can follow on Twitch. You can join the Discord. Right now, I think I'm working with the name Pet Planetoid for the game, but I have a whole list of other stuff which I can show you that I've kind of been thinking about. I don't know if I can zoom in maybe. Yeah. Some names that are funny, some that are more serious, and I think Pet Planetoid's sort of like a nice sort of medium name that it's the most descriptive name that gives you a good idea of what it's about, and it has alliteration. Maybe not as funny as some of the other ones, like Rock Evolved or Pet Rock Evolved or Planet Daddy or Planet Papa, but or Pet Rock Simulator or Spaceball, but it's pretty good. Another name I kind of like is Planet Garden, because you're kind of growing and cultivating your planet. A planet's life, kind of like a bug's life. But yeah, that's the stream. Thanks for joining. If you have any thoughts, please share them with me. And I'll be signing off here. Trying to do like kind of quicker, more juicy, meaty streams as opposed to the kind of like longer streams that I had done in the past. And yeah, thanks for coming in the stream. Later.